Last month, I invited the CEOs of Visa, Mastercard, United Airlines, and American Airlines to testify before the Judiciary Committee, which I chair, about competition in the credit card market. I've been working for nearly 20 years to break the Visa-Mastercard duopoly in the debit and credit markets, which would reduce costs for small businesses and lower prices for consumers. In 2006, I was the most junior member of the Judiciary Committee when I first learned about interchange fees. I literally didn't know they existed. They're known as swipe fees as well. These are fees that are deducted every time you swipe your debit or credit card and pay to the bank that issued the card. For debit transactions, this fee is now capped at 21 cents plus 0.05% of the transaction. That is because of legislation which is known either in an honorable way or in a questionable way as the Durbin Amendment that I wrote in the year 2010. However, for credit card transactions, interchange fees are much higher, in the range of 2 to 3%. That means if you go to a restaurant and pay $20 for your meal, 40 to 60 cents goes to the bank that issued the credit card you used to pay for the meal. It may not sound like a lot, but it adds up. It is estimated that businesses paid more than $100 billion in swipe fees on Visa and MasterCard branded cards in 2023 alone. In fact, swipe fees can be small businesses' second highest cost, behind only the cost of labor. Small businesses have no choice but to pay the fees. Visa and MasterCard control more than 80% of the U.S. credit card market, accounting for 576 million cards. They use this power to dictate interchange fees to businesses. It's a take it or leave it proposition. Because margins at these small businesses are often low, they feel compelled to pass on these fees directly to consumers in the form of higher prices. This means all of us, whether you pay with a credit card, a debit card, or cash, are subsidizing banks like J.P. Morgan Chase, which just announced it made $49.6 billion in net income in 2023, the most in the history of the American banking industry. Thankfully, there's an answer and a solution to the problem. The Credit Card Competition Act, a bipartisan bill I introduced last year with Republican Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas, would inject much-needed competition into the credit card market and break the Visa and MasterCard stronghold. Here's what our bill says. If a bank with $100 billion or more in assets, only 30 banks incidentally qualify, want to issue a credit card on the Visa or MasterCard network, it would have to offer a second network other than Visa or MasterCard to process the transaction. That's known euphemistically as competition. In a way, merchants will finally have a choice. If Visa or MasterCard offers the best service or security for the lowest cost, the merchant can use it. But if the other network offers a better deal, the merchant can choose that instead. That's known as competition. By forcing Visa and MasterCard to actually compete for merchants' business, we're aiming to end the cycle of increasing interchange fees that's breaking the backs of small businesses. And as you can imagine, Visa, MasterCard, and their big bank partners don't like our bill. The bill is expected to save merchants and consumers $15 billion every year in interchange fees. That's $15 billion a year coming out of the pockets of Wall Street banks and into the pockets of American consumers. That's why credit card companies and banks have poured more than $51 million into lobbying efforts to defeat my bill. $51 million. They've also enlisted airlines in their effort. An article in The Atlantic recently explained why. Airlines are just banks now. They make more money from their mileage programs and credit cards than from flying airplanes. So if you think of a major airline like United Airlines, it's basically a credit card company that owns some planes. That's why anyone who's traveled through the airport here in D.C., watched TV, or used the internet has probably seen ads claiming, quote, Dick Durbin wants to take away your credit card rewards. The problem in these breathless claims are that they are false. Rewards programs will be alive and well long after the Credit Card Competition Act becomes law. We know this from data, real-world experience, and common sense. Let's start with data. One study found that my bill would have a negligible impact at most on rewards and noted that bank swipe fees provides a more than sufficient margin to maintain current reward levels. That's a far cry from what consumers suffered when United Airlines recently devalued its miles for international travel last summer. These findings are consistent with the experiences of other countries. Other countries have decided to protect their consumers from these swipe fees with the credit cards. Australia capped the interchange fee at 0.8% in 2003. The European Union capped interchange fees at 0.3% in 2015. Rewards programs haven't gone away in either place. In fact, most major European airlines offer rewards programs that are comparable, if not better, than the ones offered in the United States. The reason's simple. Banks have to compete against each other for customers, and there are few things that make one credit card more attractive to a customer than others, other than perhaps a better rewards program. This dynamic won't change when the Credit Card Competition Act becomes law. And that brings me back to the hearing. The Judiciary Committee last held a hearing on competition in the credit card market in May of 2022. Visa and MasterCard have increased their fees since that hearing and are planning to do so again next month. Even in the midst of concerns about inflation, they keep raising this fee over and over again, even as consumers are trying to fight the fires of inflation. That's why I invited the CEOs of Visa, MasterCard, United Airlines, and American Airlines to come testify before the Judiciary Committee on April 9th. Guess what? All 4 CEOs rejected my invitation. They're just too darn busy to come and explain the major source of profits for their businesses. They're too darn busy to come and explain what they're doing to consumers and families across America. And some say we just don't understand the issue well enough to testify before your committee. CEOs of the company, and they don't understand the issue, like their attacks on my bill. The CEO's excuses why they can't appear before the American people and answer questions don't hold water. Killing the Credit Card Competition Act has been and remains a top priority for these companies, as evidenced by more than $51 million lobbying effort that they've undertaken against my bill. I guess I should feel flattered that they would spend $51 million lobbying to try to stop this legislation. But frankly, it infuriates me that they won't come before this committee under oath and testify, but they're spending all this money in a secret fashion. Several of the CEOs have been personally engaged in this issue. Scott Kirby, who's the CEO of United Airlines, told investors that my bill is, quote, bad policy, and he had personally, quote, spent a fair amount of time in D.C. talking about the bill. MasterCard CEO Michael Miebach told investors he was closely engaged in efforts to defeat this legislation. If these CEOs are willing to discuss the Credit Card Competition Act with Wall Street investors and lawmakers behind closed doors, they should be willing to answer questions before the Senate Judiciary Committee and the American public under oath. If the credit card market really is working for small businesses and consumers, then I say to Ryan McInerney, Michael Miebach, Scott Kirby, and Robert Isom, you should have nothing to hide. The fact that you are refusing to appear and publicly defend your skimming of every credit card transaction in America speaks volumes. I yield the floor.